Hello, Tech Pros, episode 136.
Don't think that you don't have it. Don't think that that's something you don't have and that you'll never be able to have. You didn't come out of your mama's womb an excellent programmer or an excellent tech pro. We can teach you and you can learn how to be a great leader and manager if it's something you believe that matters.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Rennie Cook. Happy Wednesday, Rennie.
How you doing, Chad? Good to hear from you today.
Yeah, you bet. Are you ready to lead us through this interview?
I'm ready to do my best I can. Excited to talk to you and your listeners today.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. Rennie Cook is an executive coach, trainer, and speaker. He specializes in working with executives who are frustrated with their own performance or their teams and offers leadership, management, and team development solutions. So, Rennie, you are also a friend of Stacey Eads, and I love when we have a guest of guests come on the episode, friends of guests come on the episode, because it expands my outreach, it expands my network of people that I'm working with and my friends, and I'm love to have any friend of Stacey Eads who has upped her business by 600%, and we talked about that episode on this, or we talked about how she upped her business 600% over a couple of years on an episode here in Hello Tech Pros. Any person who's associated with Stacey is definitely a friend of mine.
Hey, Stacey is, one of those unique leaders and executives that just has a natural gift, but at the same time, she has the grit, the work ethic to do amazing things. The things that's happening at Levant Technologies and like you said, the growth that she's helped lead there is absolutely amazing. And I think she'd be the first to give credit in two directions. First of all, amazing ownership that lets her do the job that she was hired to do as the CEO. But then she has done a great job of hiring an amazing team over there at Levant. So we have a common acquaintance that is outstanding in Stacey.
Absolutely.
And she has a great first name because my wife's first name is Stacey too. So I'm very fond of Stacey's.
Awesome. Well, we loved her episode and her story that she shared with us. That was on a Product Tuesday back in May. I don't have the episode number here with us, but it was a few episodes ago. So, audience, if you want to look that up, I'll have it in the show notes for this episode. If you go to hellotechpros.com/136, the show notes for this episode, we'll have the link to that episode with Stacey. It was called Increase Your Output by 600%. And it was just pretty cool tips that she shared. But today is Leadership Wednesday on Hello Tech Pros. And Rennie, as you know, you don't have to be a manager to be a leader, right? You can be a leader in all kinds of different roles, whether you're just a volunteer at church or a individual contributor on the team. But one of the things that we always like to learn about is this fact that we're all human and we've all had these horrible experiences where we've worked with a horrible boss. So, Rennie, if you could share us some personal story about the time you worked with a most horrible boss. Now, don't name names. We don't want to throw people under the bus, but we want to learn from this example and see maybe what can we do differently in our leadership style.
Well, Chad, I'm afraid that if you ask some of the people I've worked with in the past, they might have stories for me. I think you're exactly right. We are all human and we make mistakes and, have those horrible boss experiences. I think the worst thing that I've experienced with bosses I've had in the past is just not being able to trust them. The feeling that, your boss, you don't know what your boss is really going to say about you. You don't know if your boss is being forthright and truthful in the project and what the exact objectives are. Your boss isn't being forthright in their communication in barriers to the project or dynamics on the team, or they're being manipulative. I think the absolute worst kind of environment to be in is one where there's a lack of trust. It doesn't matter how competent people are. It doesn't matter, how great the mission is. When I've been on teams or I've been in environments where trust was low, I can tell you that it was just a terrible, terrible experience because you always feel like you're second guessing yourself. And I love what Stephen Covey talks about in The Speed of Trust. He talks about how trust is one of those things that might make you more profitable because it helps you move quicker and it speeds up production and communication. So yeah, I look at the experiences I've had, and when trust was low, the leadership experiences were also very low.
So, Rennie, what do you think causes this lack of trust on the team, right? So, if we're not trusting our manager, if we're not trusting our boss, it's got to be because they're exhibiting some behaviors that makes them seem a little bit untrustworthy. So, what do you think is causing that?
No, Chad, I think that's a great question. I think, fundamentally, research has shown for 30 years, this is amazing, really, internationally, research on what stakeholders expect from their leaders has not changed in 30 years. It's across industries, volunteer organizations. It's across levels of the organization, whether it's CEOs or entry level positions. In 30 years, the number one expectation stakeholders have of their leaders is trust. It is so fundamental, and I would say I communicate it to my clients in three ways. Trust is communicated, number one, through being very competent. I mean, we trust people who are really good at what they do, right? So if between me and Stephen Curry, you're going to choose Stephen Curry to shoot that shot instead of me. Because he's really good, he's competent. We trust competence, but competence alone doesn't build trust. It's a factor, but that's not the only thing. I think the second thing is that you have to have character, and there is a huge need for people who are going to do what they say they're going to do, people who are going to follow up and follow through. I think the other side of character is an emotional character. We've all had that boss that we ask, hey, is the boss in a good mood? And we have to check with somebody else before we go in and have a conversation with them, and we find out they're not in a good mood, and we decide we're going to dodge them for a few days before we have that conversation, and just having that character, that emotional stability of character is huge. So I think competence, I think character, and I think the third thing that builds trust or identifies trust is care. I think at the end of the day, there's that old saying that says, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. We trust people who truly care about us. And we've all been on teams where it's been a win-me situation, where the leader is all about themselves, all about trying to find out a win for them. And we, no matter how good they are, and no matter if they do what they say they're going to do, those other things, if we don't feel like they're in it for us as well, and they care about us, not only professionally but just personally, I think it drops what I call the trust factor. But when those three things are in place, when there's great competence, when there is great character, and when there is great care for people, and that is shown consistently over time, the trust of a leader is going to skyrocket, and the trust on the team is going to skyrocket as well.
Man, I love how you broke it down into those three categories: the competency, the character, and the caring about the people on the team. And if I could take those in reverse order, man, it's such a breath of fresh air when you're working for somebody who just acts like they really truly care about you. They're asking about your home life. They're not trying to get personal. They're not trying to pick on your life outside of work, but they're just like, hey, I see that maybe you're having a bad day. Is there anything I can do for you? What's going on? Yeah, I know you're having problems with your pet. Your dog was sick and at the vet. Is everything all right? Anything I can do? And just that level of care that shows that they're not just like a horrible boss, or not just a person in another cog in the wheel of the machine of business, but they're an actual human that really cares about you. I mean, that means so much to me personally.
Here's a simple thing that I encourage my managers and leaders to do for a variety of reasons, but it shows care. Someone's sick and they come back to work. Sometimes our natural response, hey, glad you're back to work. Glad you're, back in your cubicle doing your job. No, how about caring for them and say, hey, do you feel better? Are you feeling, do you need something today? Are you sure everything's all right? I mean, just caring for people at a basic level just breeds all kinds of trust. It can actually transform a culture too.
Absolutely, and care enough about the rest of the individuals in the department to say, hey, if you're sick, then please, for the love of everyone that works here, go home and take care of yourself and get better, and don't spread those germy, wormy, icky, nicky stuff around here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, okay, so you had this experience. You've worked in these situations where they didn't they didn't show care, and maybe the character was more about them than the team, right? It was not following up, it was not following through, it didn't have this emotional character. Um, and then the competency. So, are any one of these kind of a bigger deal or a more important attribute in your mind than the others, or are they all equal?
I think they're all equal. I think that I think you can look at a variety of scenarios to where someone has great character and they care for you a lot, but they just don't have the competency to be your financial planner, maybe, right? They can have great competencies as a financial planner, and that they care for you personally, but there's been some character flaws that maybe you don't want to trust your retirement with. And then obviously the last one is true as well, is great character, great competence as a financial planner. But then you look at it and you're like, I just don't know if at the end of the day they'd make the best decision just for me, or they'd skim the books a little bit to make a best decision that's for them. And so I think all three are important. And if you look at yourself as a leader, it's all about relationships. And you can see that there are areas where you shouldn't be the trusted leader because you don't have the competence in that area. But when you look at leading your organization and what you do on a day-to-day basis, character transfers to a variety in every situation in your life, I believe. Caring for people transfers to a variety of situations in every area of your life, I believe. And the one is competence. I mean, there's areas where I should not be the trusted leader because I'm not very competent. I would not be a great accountant. Do not trust me as your tax CPA person. So in those ways, I think all three are important, but it's also very situational because of that competence factor.
Well, let's touch on the situation, the competency situation in an environment where, our audience today, they're technical professionals, right? We've got database administrators, we've got server engineers, we've got software developers, we've got graphic designers, all kinds of people that come from this very technical, hands-on role,
Yeah.
places, right? And sometimes we move into a leadership role because we've had a high level of competency and a high level of character throughout our career, and we've just moved up into that team lead and into that leadership position, that manager position, and we are extremely highly competent at actually doing the work, but we're learning leadership and we're learning management as we go. And then there are other situations where a person is really competent in the business, like maybe a different department, like from the accounting side, and now is in charge of this team of, really smart individual contributors that are doing more technical stuff, but doesn't have the competency in that area. So how can we work in both of those situations, right? So as an individual contributor moving up to into that leadership role, and then as a leader who inherits or becomes the leader in charge of other areas where they don't have that competency.
Well, that's a big question, Chad. I think that let's take the first one for example, that you've moved up in an organization because of your functional competence. You're a great programmer, and now you're a lead programmer. What I would always challenge when I challenge my clients in is to realize that the brains around the table are always better than the brains at the head of the table. And what do I mean by that is that collectively we are always better than we are isolated by ourselves. And even though that we come to our position of leadership because we're highly competent as a programmer, it doesn't mean that our ideas aren't valuable still, but there's ideas around the table that need to be heard. Your idea can be strengthened and sharpened by sharing it with the other people around the table. And it's taking time to see that everyone adds value to the team. Nothing of significance in the history of this world, and I want you to think about that. In the history of this world, nothing of significance has ever been accomplished by the efforts of one solitary individual. It's always a group of people coming together to make something happen. So no matter how great you are, LeBron James and what he did in the NBA Finals, he needed a team around him. And so it's for those leaders out there that have grown to a position of leadership because of their functional competence, you can only take your team so far by yourself. But open up your ears and get them to open up their mouths and to share their experiences and share their expertise. I think you're going to take your team a lot further down the road and experience a lot more success. I think the second part of that is it's also more fun. It's just more fun to celebrate the achievements of a team rather than it is to celebrate individual achievement. Then we can look back and say, man, look at what we have overcome together. Look at what we've achieved together. And look at how your idea strengthened my idea. I always make the joke, I wonder how many bad ideas they come up with at Google every day. I mean, because there's got to be plenty of them because they've got great ideas. But they are taking the chance to have conversations about it, to look ridiculous, to look foolish, to have someone challenge them because their leaders are wanting those minds around the table to help them become one of the most innovative organizations in the world. And it's because those leaders want those brains around the table to be opened up and those ideas to be shared. So that's what I'd say to the functional leaders, just to listen and to bring that expertise out on the people that are on your team.
All right, so now let's take a look at the other leader, right? So the leader that's really good in maybe a different function as they grew up and moved into leadership, and now they are a leader or a manager over a function that they don't have the expertise in.
I've been in those situations personally, to where I've been moved into positions of leadership across an organization to where now I'm a division that I really don't have a lot of expertise in. I think step number one is to be humble and to recognize and to admit to the fact that, you know what, I have a lot to learn from you guys. I'm interested in what you have to show me, and to recognize that you are on the learning curve, and you expect the people on this team to be the experts and to teach you and to show you what's going on. But at the same time, you don't want to minimize what you bring to the team, because leadership and management competencies are huge, and they help bring the team together. And so I think the first step is to be humble and to listen, but at the same time, don't go so far to say, well, I really don't add any value to the team. Let me just get out of your way and let you guys just do what you want to do individually. No, as a great manager and a great leader is able to learn from these people and figure out how to put the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together to create a great team. And so that's what I would tell the person that was moving to a space where maybe they don't have the functional expertise. What they're able to do is go in there and learn and not be cocky, not act like they know it all, because people are going to see through that. But also at the same time, leverage the expertise they do bring in being a great manager and being a great leader and bringing a team together to do great work.
So, and then we have these situations where, we are that functional, we have that high degree of functional competency, and we are maybe the spokesperson from the team, right? We're the person on the team that everybody's looking up to because either we have the seniority or we have the specific competency. And now we've got this leader who is looking for, hey, we want the ideas from around the team. And so we're in this go-between position, right? Where we're talking to the manager who doesn't have the functional expertise, and we're kind of speaking on behalf of the team around us that's really looking up for us. What can we do to kind of bridge the gap between the two parties, to bridge the gap between the team and the manager?
So you're supervising a team, and they're doing great stuff, but you're having trouble communicating those ideas to management. Here's a great concept that I tell people: share the ball. Share the ball. One of the things that I always have encouraged people to do is, allow people on your team to shine. This might be a situation to where there's a member of your team who has a great innovative idea, and you guys have talked about it as a team, and you've developed as a team, and now you're ready to go sell it to management. Well, bring that player along. Give them the opportunity to be at the spotlight. I've never heard of someone losing their job because they're doing too great of a job of developing the people around them. I've never heard that. I've never heard the say, you know what, we're going to get rid of Rennie because you know what, the people on his team, he just continues to develop them, and they're just doing it, and they're just growing and becoming better professionals. I think sometimes we feel like that there's this insecurity that we have. Well, I can't do that. I got to do that by myself. And no, bring a team member along. Say, you know what, we've been processing this and working through this, and the best person to really describe this idea to you is Joe. And let Joe have the ball and support Joe and serve Joe in that environment. I think that does two things. I think first of all, those managers, they put you in that position knowing you weren't the expert. They put you in the position because they knew you were a great leader. And by bringing Joe to the table, you're showing great leadership. I think the second thing it does is to that team that you're going to go back to, they're like, wow, he's not a ball hog. And as a former basketball player, like I said, no one likes to play with a ball hog. And I think it's just going to ripen the environment and the culture of innovation and sharing the ball and seeing that we're all part of a team and we're in this together.
I love that advice, Rennie, because from what I've seen in the past, there's really just kind of three different types of people in an organization. There's the individual contributors that are actually doing the work and making things happen. Then there's the leaders of the individual contributors who are making the work happen. And then there are leaders of leaders. And so once you get to that position where you are leaders of leaders, you're just, no matter how big the organization is, if it's a very, very, stacked organization with 10,000 levels between the individual contributors and the CEO of the organization, all of the other middle management in between are just people that are trying to develop other leaders, people who are trying to lead other leaders and have those groups running effectively. So I think that's very, very great advice, Rennie, is when we're in that first tier, that the supervisor or manager position, don't hog the ball, bring the individuals to the table and start developing them into leaders. And once we can develop our individual contributors into leaders as well, then you know what? All of a sudden we have magically moved up, regardless of if we have the title or not. We have moved up into that next echelon of leaders who lead leaders.
Well, I think, let's go back to that fundamental conversation we had at the very beginning about trust. I mean, the team you're leading, when you've behaved and led in that manner, think about what the team thinks and how they trust you. And in the opposite way too, what do you think senior management now thinks of how they trust you? That you're not going to come in and try to fake it, but you're going to make sure that the experts are bringing the best information they possibly can to senior management. And we love leaders we can trust.
Absolutely. Well, I love this conversation, and we're going to continue with some of the coaching and leadership that you bring to CEOs and executives and teams in your coaching and training and speaking experience. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Are you new to podcasting? Are you looking for a fast, high-quality, yet budget-friendly podcast production team? Let TransSource Media take care of you. With a team of professional audio and video editors, writers, and graphic artists, they can help you build your podcast from planning, post-production, and platform submission. Using only cutting-edge software and studio equipment, they're here to make each and every show sound at its best. To get a free quote, please visit www.transsourcemedia.com or send them an email at marketing@transsourcemedia.com or call them at 209-505-5693. TransSource Media, transforming businesses through the power of multimedia. Okay, we're back with Rennie Cook. Rennie Cook is an executive coach, trainer, and speaker. He specializes in working with executives who are frustrated with their own performance or the teams, and offers leadership management and team development solutions. And we've been talking to Rennie about this trifecta of a great boss, which is be competent, have competency in whatever areas that you're working in, have character and emotional character to just show that, you have that integrity. You're going to follow through with what you promised. You're going to back up what you said. You're going to be there for your team. And then the third thing is have that care for the people that are on the team, regardless of if they work for you or they're just other people in the environment. But have that care so that people can understand that you're a real live human being who wants to help and not just another cog in the wheel or not just looking out for yourself. So, Rennie, as you're in your role as a coach and trainer and speaker, what are some of the biggest stumbling blocks that you see leaders run into?
Number one is conflict. I mean, it is the absolute number one issue that leaders are dealing with. There's an interesting article from Harvard Business Review that says 30 to 40%. This is amazing. 30 to 40% of a manager's time is spent dealing with conflict. And that can be internal conflict, that can be external conflict, and conflict is just a real issue. There can be personality conflicts, or we could get into the list of issues or the kinds of conflicts that arise. But the one thing when I'm working with my leaders and my managers, my executives that I work with, is that they want to try to get rid of the conflict. And that's just not going to happen. When you get a group of people who have a variety of interests and a variety of skills and talents and personalities, and the list goes on, there's going to be conflict. The key is how you handle the conflict. And if we can make our executives more effective, and that's what we work with our executives to do, to make them more effective in dealing with conflict, that conflict actually can be a catalyst for growth for the organization. It doesn't have to be something we're scared of. If I were to tell you, hey, Chad, you know what? My wife and I this morning got in a fight, you wouldn't naturally think that my marriage was in trouble. Now, what matters is how we resolve that fight, how we resolve that conflict. And how we do it is a direct reflect on the health of my marriage with Stacy. And I didn't get in a fight with Stacy, by the way, this morning. But my point being is, how we handle the conflict is much more important than whether the conflict exists or not, because the conflict is going to exist, and we got to be comfortable with it. So if we're good at dealing with conflict, that's a catalyst for growth. Man, our organization can explode. Our organization can get better. And if I can help my executives deal with conflict more confidently and more effectively, let's say I drop that percentage of time they're dealing with conflict from 40% of their time to 20% of their time. What I tell them all the time is, I've just bought you back a day a week. From 40% of your time dealing with conflict and having to handle conflict and being in meetings and trying to interpret communication and all the other junk that goes with conflict, to learning how to deal with conflict straightforward in an effective manner, I've bought you back a day a week. What are you going to go do with it now? And so conflict is one of those things, and I'll tell everybody out there, the trainer or the book or the whatever it is that says, here's the ways to eliminate conflict in your organization, don't waste your time on it. A natural part of a healthy relationship is conflict. And the most important thing you can do is learn how to deal with it effectively.
So, Rennie, I got to air some dirty laundry on myself here, because I've worked in organizations in the past that it was completely full of very talented, very smart, very capable individuals that had a lot of introverted personalities, a lot of shy personalities, and there honestly was just not enough conflict, in my opinion, on the team. Once somebody said, this is the way that we should go, then everybody either agreed or passively agreed, meaning they just sat there and didn't say anything. And so a lot of the times, to be honest with you, I kind of was like a little hornet on this team. And I would go around just kind of stinging or threaten to sting a little bit, saying, hey, Rennie, you're sitting over there awful quiet. But the look on your face looks like maybe you disagree. Do you have a different opinion? And just you watch until your head boils over and you start to explode and get a little frustrated with me calling you out. But my goal there was to actually not to create conflict, right? Not to cause a situation between two individuals on the team, but to just sometimes we need to have arguments about the data or arguments about the process, right? Not fights as individuals, not conflicts as two individuals on the team, but really have all the opinions out there and to get everybody's opinions heard.
I think that's exactly right. One of the things is, you alluded to this. We're not having conflict about personalities. We're not making it personal. It's about the project. It's about the problem. And we do what we can as leaders and managers to make sure that everyone realizes I'm not attacking Chad. I'm attacking the problem. I'm not attacking Chad. I'm attacking the project here, and we're all on the same team, and we share this goal to make this as successful as we possibly can. So I have to open my mouth. So one of the things the leaders are readers, like you're saying, they read the people. And they read that maybe not in this group meeting, but I might need to have a little sidebar conversation with Rick over here and kind of get his individual thoughts on this, because I see him hesitate there a little bit, and make it comfortable for him to give that feedback that's going to be important to the project, because not everybody's comfortable with those kind of group conversations. But leaders are responsible for creating a culture where that conflict can be done in an appropriate manner, to where people know that, hey, your opinions matter here. We expect you to speak out. We expect the contrarian voice to be heard at the table. And sometimes I've seen leaders do this is to say, everyone come up with why we're wrong. And now you're asking people to put on the contrarian hat. You're expecting people to put on the contrarian hat. And I think that sometimes helps as well. Just building that environment and that culture to where I'm not attacking Chad. Mm-hmm. Chad and I are boys. Chad and I are going to go to lunch and have coffee. Chad and I are going to have a barbecue on the weekend. But I disagree with Chad on this problem. And that's what we're going to attack, is the problem. And that's a leader's responsibility, to create those environments, to create those cultures.
So in a lot of cultures, though, in a lot of environments, I've seen it where the employees are just shell-shocked, right, because of maybe past leadership, past management, and that trust is not there. Going way back to the very beginning of the conversation, the trust is eroded on the team because of poor leadership and bad management before, and now we're in this position, and we're trying to get that contrarian voice. We're trying to get that little bit of healthy conflict out there so that we can discuss the problems, and first of all, just identify that there are problems, and second of all, discuss them and come up with the best solutions. So what can we do to maybe rebuild that trust once it's been eroded?
Yeah, I think one of the things I encourage my new executives in is that wholesale change seldom happens overnight. And one of the things that we have to do as leaders is to be patient, because sometimes change does take some time. And unfortunately, you can step into an organization, into a team that has been for lack of a better word, just abused by their former leaders and beat up and put down. And you have to, as a good executive stepping into those situations, you have to be able to read that situation and understand you're going to have a little patience. And that's where I think it's effective to remember that trust is built over time, showing people that you care about them, being competent in it and showing your own character. I think it's also important to have, private one-to-one conversations with people. Not everything is a group, and letting people know and that they can speak to their mind to you privately, building that relationship with your team one-to-one. I think sometimes leaders make the mistake is I'm just leading this group and I'm motivating this group, and they're all led the same way, and they're all managed the same way, and they're all motivated the same way. If you step into a situation and do that, you're going to lose a lot of your people, because people are motivated in different ways. And so one of the first things you should do stepping into that situation is, number one, be patient, realize transformation takes time, and get to know and build a relationship with your team members on an individual basis. And I think that's a powerful move forward as they begin to build trust in you as the leader.
Absolutely agree there, Rennie, because Actually, the funnest part of all of my leadership jobs has been having those one-on-ones with the individuals on the team and just getting to know them as people, right? As individuals, and figure out not just what their motivators are, but what they really care about, right? What are the things that they really care about? What are the things that they don't want? We get into I open up with just sharing some stuff about myself, sharing about my goals, sharing about my struggles, sharing about, whatever's on my mind, and then ask them to do the same. And then so many great things have happened from those conversations that have made me say aha, and have these aha moments where when we go back to like a staff meeting or a group meeting or, project meetings, then I have a lot more appreciation for the individuals around the table. And then I'm not, picking on Bill because he's too quiet, or I'm, always siding with Janice because she has the best ideas, right? It allows me to definitely understand the individuals on the team, where they're coming from, what their concerns are in a safe, private environment, and then have those group discussions a lot more. I don't know, they just seem to be a lot better after that.
I think there's a couple of things there that I want to echo. First of all, as leaders go first. You talked about vulnerability. Go first. Be open and honest about what your concerns are and what your dreams are and aspirations. And I think a second thing to talk about is fear. Fear is a reality that sometimes we just don't want to address. And what are the things that maybe your team members are scared of or fearful of? And I think another huge deal is that the connotation of being the leader and the manager is changing, unfortunately, because so many people have had bad leadership and management experiences that for a long time people thought, oh, the leader, that's a great person, that's a great position. And sometimes you need to recognize that you're stepping into a position where the title of leader is not respected. The title of leader is not trusted. The title of leader may actually have a negative connotation, and that doesn't have anything to do with you, but you're being very naive if you don't take that into account on how you build your leadership with that team, because the experiences that those team members have had in the past will have a huge effect on how they relate to you as you step into your leadership position.
Great stuff, Rennie. Unfortunately, we are out of time for this particular episode. So before we go, could you share some parting words of wisdom for our audience, the best way that we can connect with you? And then we'll say goodbye.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chad. I'd love for you to go by my website. I have a website at renniecook.com. That's RENNIE. COOK. RennieCook.com is my personal blog and website. And then if you were to check out my business, it's Triumph. Triumph is TRIUMPH-team.com. Gives you a great kind of rundown of the different things our company is able to do in the world of management, leadership, and team development. And I would tell all my friends out there is that, just like you were able to grow in your technical expertise, you can grow and develop and become a great manager and leader. And don't think that you don't have it. Don't think that that's something you don't have and that you'll never be able to have. You didn't come out of your mama's womb an excellent programmer or an excellent tech pro. We can teach you, and you can learn how to be a great leader and manager if it's something you believe that matters.
Rennie, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value your leadership and your inspiration and just your explanation of some of the things that we can get wrong or overlook. I really value that. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Chad, it has been an honor. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. Tech Pros, man, just if you're in this position where you have thought in the past that leadership sucks, it is not for you. You don't ever want to be there. It can suck. It can be the hardest job in the world, but it can also be one of the most fulfilling jobs in the world too. My personal experience, as you guys know, if you've listened to this podcast before, is I was always that tech pro who just wanted to hide behind the keyboard, hide behind the monitor, and not go to any of the meetings, not go to any of do any of the management work, honestly, absolutely, going back to what a big thing that Rennie said is because I was afraid of the conflict. Because anytime I saw conflict in my mind, that was bad. And let me tell you something, conflict can be healthy. It can be great. It can be that thing that helps you grow, and it can help a team grow. So if you're afraid of the conflict, then maybe let's talk about it. Come to my Slack channel. Let me know what you're struggling with, and we can discuss it. Go to hellotechpros.com/Slack, and that's where some of my guests and some of my audience members and me and some of my buddies hang out and talk about all this kind of stuff all day long. Thanks to Rennie Cook for joining me on Hello Tech Pros, and thank you for joining us on Hello Tech Pros as well, audience members. You've been listening to Rennie Cook, and I'm Chad Bostic, and until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/136. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Leadership Wednesday, but tomorrow, my featured guest and I talk about technology. On Friday, people and communication. Saturday, entrepreneurship. Sunday, being unplugged. And then next week, we kick it off with Motivation Monday, followed by Tuesday, productivity. And then we're back again on Wednesday to discuss leadership. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.